Morning, everyone. My name is Samantha Becotte. I'm the president of the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation. I'm so grateful to all of you for joining us here today. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm joining from Treaty 6 territory and the traditional lands of the Métis. Our topic for today is a difficult one, but incredibly important to discuss and to share the realities of within our classrooms and our schools here in Saskatchewan. No one should be experiencing violence or aggression in their workplace. And unfortunately, these instances are becoming regular events in schools across Saskatchewan, which means it's not only occurring in teachers' working environments, but these incidents are occurring in our students' learning environments. And before I get into some of the details and the statistics, I want to be very clear. Teachers know that these incidents are at no fault of the students who are involved. Violent incidents are a symptom of underfunding and are a clear sign that there is not enough support for students or teachers in our schools. Students today experience a very different learning environment than their parents would have experienced. And for some students, violence and aggression are regular occurrences during their time at school. Today, we're sharing the testimonials of just a few teachers whose lives and working environments have been seriously affected by violence. I deeply appreciate their bravery and honesty in agreeing to share such personal experiences. We have sent a background document with media as part of our news release that contains the experience of 3 teachers, along with photos that we've received from teachers across Saskatchewan. Pseudonyms have been used to protect the identity and privacy of individuals who are involved. And I want to share a few pieces of 2 of those teacher experiences before I pass it over to Shelby. So first, Roman, a teacher who was retired, returned to substitute in a high school and was attacked in the hallway by a student. He was hit in the head and jaw several times, resulting in his jaw being broken in several places. Roman said, "I don't know how the needs of these struggling students can be met by classroom teachers. Additional funding is needed to provide professional assistance for these students trying to keep their heads above water." Next, Mary, an experienced teacher, shared her experiences in school and the regular violent incidents that occur, including furniture being thrown, being charged at, punched, headbutted, among other incidents. Mary said, "These things happen every day in our schools. It is traumatic and unacceptable for everyone. The students who are so dysregulated because they aren't being given the supports that they desperately need, the classmates who have to witness the event, evacuate the room, and have their safe space destroyed, the teachers and other staff who are injured and put themselves in harm's way to keep everyone safe and to try and help these students." As I said, these are difficult experiences to discuss and to talk about, but in both of those statements, the teachers reiterated our view that students are not at fault, but it is the environment that has been created and the lack of supports that are available due to this government's decision to continue to underfund our education system. So as I said, today I am grateful to have Shelby joining us to share her experience with violence in a Saskatchewan school. I am grateful for her bravery in doing this, as I know that these are not easy conversations to have, especially when you're talking about a personal experience and very traumatic experience that someone has gone through. So Shelby, you're able to turn on your camera and unmute. There we go. Hi, Shelby.
Hi, thank you, Samantha. So in March 2023, I was working as a grade 3-4 teacher in a Saskatchewan school, and this is my very first year as an elementary school teacher. I was going outside for recess supervision when I heard a situation out in the hallway. I walked into the hallway and I was attacked by a grade 7 student who was in an escalated state. I was not the only staff member who was involved in the situation. I was repeatedly hit and kicked in the upper body and the head by the student, and I was told it took several staff members to get the student off of me and be able to restrain them. From there, we had police and emergency services at the school. I was taken to the hospital by ambulance during the school day, and I ended up being treated for a severe concussion and a broken nose and had other bruises on my body. After this, I stayed in a state of shock for about a month. I wasn't really able to process what had happened or how severe it was. And then once the bruising on my face and body had faded, I returned to work full time. This was only 27 days after the initial incident. My return to work with my students in the exact same school ended up being unsuccessful, and I ended up transferring schools to finish off the school year in a co-teaching situation. I didn't have much direction on what to do in this situation. You never really know where this could go. I ended up working with my doctor and my physiotherapist for 3 months following to help with continued issues with my concussion. And still today, I have to work with my different therapists to help me navigate the anxieties that I have in the classroom. And it took me quite a while to become comfortable teaching in a classroom by myself again. As Samantha said, none of this should have ever happened in the first place. I do not blame the student for what happened. I blame the system and the continued lack of government support that continues to let the Saskatchewan students fall through the cracks. Violence in schools is an increasing issue, and it compromises the safety of staff and students within the building. As of right now in Saskatchewan, there's not a system in place for teachers to even report when they're involved in a violent incident within a school. I've now moved and I teach in a completely different province. And before my first day of teaching, I was made aware of their incident reporting system. Again, this was not available in Saskatchewan and can make a huge difference to the safeties in the schools. A system such as this can ensure that records of incidents with children allow for them to receive the proper support that they need to continue their education successfully. Schools in Saskatchewan should be safe and healthy places for staff to work and for students to learn. The teachers in Saskatchewan are just not prepared, supported, or even given the proper resources to be able to support the students when they really need it.
Thank you, Shelby. Again, thank you for being here and sharing your experience. It is saddening to hear that you, as well as others across the province, have had to go through experiences as you've shared. And I can only imagine the impact that this has had on you and your life. And again, thank you for your bravery and your willingness to share these experiences in hopes that we can provide better supports to students and to teachers, and to help ensure that incidents like this that you've experienced are prevented in the future. Unfortunately, though, experiences like Shelby has described and the two other teachers that I had noted prior are not isolated incidents. Violence and harassment is being experienced by more and more teachers across our province in Saskatchewan. An STF survey of Saskatchewan teachers and around classroom violence found that 35.4% of respondents experienced violence in their working environment in the last 5 years, up from 29.5% in 2021. And of those who had experienced violence, over 4 out of 5 of them noted that they had experienced 2 to 3 instances in the last 5 years. In terms of harassment, 40% of teacher respondents reported workplace harassment in the last 5 years, which is up from 32% in 2021. Nearly 9 out of 10 of those who have experienced harassment noted repeated occurrences of up to 2 to 5 instances in the last 5 years. The majority of incidents of harassment occur in person, with 68.1% of occurrences, but they also occur online, by phone, and through a third party. As Shelby noted, unlike other jurisdictions, Saskatchewan does not have a provincial violence reporting procedure, so incidents often go unreported and inadequately addressed. Education leaders lack the data necessary to meaningfully respond to violence and harassment in schools. Teachers are covered under the occupational health and safety portion of the Saskatchewan Employment Act. However, the evidence would suggest that the patchwork of OH&S and school division policies are not working. Teachers have shared that OH&S reporting is ineffective and that school division policy and procedures lack consistency across the province. Many teachers have reported that there is limited or no response when they report incidents of violence. From our member survey in 2021, 63% of teachers did not file a formal complaint in response to a violent incident. And in 2023, that number has risen to 77% of respondents. The reason that teachers provided for not reporting incidents of violence or harassment include a belief that violence has just become part of our job, a belief that doing so, reporting, would not result in any changes occurring. being unaware or unsure of the process for filing a formal complaint, or concern about retribution for themselves, or concern about the consequences for their student or students involved. As I've said before, teachers are not placing blame on kids. It's that they are not getting the supports that they need. These events impact more than just the teachers and students directly involved. Classmates and other school staff who are witnessing these events often are emotionally and mentally impacted. And when classrooms need to be evacuated, which is a practice that is used to remove students from a classroom that is or may become unsafe, learning is interrupted. A confidential reporting mechanism is a piece of what is necessary for improvements so that important data can be collected, but a reporting mechanism alone is not going to solve the issues of aggression, harassment, and violence in our schools, which again brings us back to our proposal around classroom complexity. Addressing the cause of these incidents needs to happen. And that means having predictable and sustainable funding that improves the supports in schools, helping to ensure that students' needs are met. As we heard yesterday, addressing these concerns within a collective agreement is not new. Agreements in several provinces include articles that address classroom violence, issues of classroom complexity, and our supports for students. Saskatchewan students and their teachers deserve a commitment from government for their learning environments, or to know that their learning environments are going to improve, and that they will be well supported to eliminate or minimize incidents of violence or harassment. Government must provide the funding that is necessary to ensure students receive the supports that they need to be successful and to remain safe. This isn't just something that teachers want. I know this is something that students and parents and all of Saskatchewan wants for our schools across the province. So thank you for joining us today. And again, I'd like to echo my thanks to Shelby. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have if you raise your hand. Oh, Alexander, sorry, I muted myself.
Hi, I'm just wondering, you mentioned this can fit into a collective agreement. I guess how and what would you be asking in terms of how to address violence in classrooms?
Well, as we've talked before, looking at ensuring that students are well supported can be an article within a collective agreement. And so that's one of the proposals that we have brought forward through the bargaining process, is ensuring that we have more supports for students in our schools, whether they are mental health counselors, behavioral therapists, educational psychologists, more EAs, better ratios for students and teachers, smaller class sizes. We brought forward a very comprehensive proposal to begin with, but also we need the funding available for that. And our divisions across the province are diverse and unique. And so there could also be a way that funds are directed to school divisions to ensure that more supports are available in schools to address issues around class complexity, which for the most part is the cause of a lot of the violence that occurs within schools. So if we can address that, it will likely minimize the events that are occurring. But again, as we stated with class complexity, it's going to be a start. It's likely going to take a while before we see a solution to these big issues. And then as well, in terms of a reporting mechanism, we could put into the collective agreement, and as other provinces have, an agreement to share data between the Federation, school divisions, and the ministry to ensure that everyone has the same information through a confidential reporting mechanism that teachers can access. And like I said, that data can be shared so that we are all looking at the same reality and the same pieces of information when decisions are being made around educational policies and education funding. Keenan?
Hi, Samantha. I just wonder what the province has said when you've shared some of these stories of violence. Maybe I'm dating myself, but it's certainly not something I ever experienced in my time at school. And I just wonder what the province said when you told them some of these things.
Well, when we talk to elected officials, when we talk to the bargaining team, when we brought this up in bargaining, and even when we've talked to the School Boards Association Provincial Board, there's often a denial about the reality and the frequency of these violent incidents that are happening. There's definitely a misunderstanding about what we're talking about in terms of violence and aggressive incidents. Often there, again, that's why I wanted to reiterate that we are not placing blame on students. We don't see this as students making a conscious decision to want to have these actions. Often these behaviors are coming out as a result of student frustration and elevated emotional states where students aren't getting the supports that they need, and they're not learning the skills that are necessary to regulate their behavior or regulate their emotions. And so we've done our best to try and shine a light. But again, in past rounds when we've had this conversation of bargaining, they've said that there's no data around violence. And so that's why we have asked for a reporting mechanism so that we can share the data and everyone is looking at the same picture. And also, like I said, they're often not seeing the connection between these violent incidents and classroom complexity, which as teachers know, that is really the biggest root cause of many of the occurrences that we're seeing in schools and violence that is coming in schools.
As far as you know, is that reporting mechanism in place in many other provinces in Canada?
Yeah, there's a few other provinces that have a reporting mechanism around violence that is done through their provincial organization shared with government and their school boards. As we heard from Karen Brown, the president of ETFO, they have that right within their collective agreement and a reporting mechanism in order to have that data shared between all of the parties.
Thank you.
Thanks. Angela?
Hi, thank you. Other than the reporting mechanisms, has the STF looked at other strategies that other provinces have in terms of supports for students to kind of mitigate the violence in classrooms?
Yeah, so that was part of our conversation that we had yesterday as well. We know that because of underfunding here in Saskatchewan, we have fewer professional supports available in our schools. And other provinces have negotiated conditions within their collective agreement to ensure that students who are requiring additional support are receiving that additional support. And so we have definitely had the conversation with other provincial organizations and through the Canadian Teachers Federation Board, which I am a part of. It is an ongoing conversation across provinces, all provinces here within Canada and all provincial teaching organizations of how we can reduce violence. But ultimately, it comes down in almost all of the cases to students not getting the supports that they need in schools. And that is a result of government underfunding and supports having to be cut at the local level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So not seeing any other hands up, and I don't see anything in the chat. I just want to reiterate my thanks for Shelby for joining us on behalf of the 13,500 teachers that are here across Saskatchewan. We appreciate you coming and sharing your experience. Like I said, I know it is not easy to relive some of these experiences and to share your experience publicly, but we greatly appreciate having you here. Oh, sorry, I just saw Brody raised his hand.
Yeah, I'll just go off of what was in the chat there, just in case that got missed.
Sorry, I did miss it.
Yeah, just kind of questioning whether if there's been any plans for sanctions next week, or if there's been any talks about what that job action looks like.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking strategically of what possible action could be from the Teachers Federation. And as I've stated before, we have a short-term and we've had long-term plans. Unfortunately, we're getting into the longer term. We would have loved to not have any of these actions, but government continues to refuse to acknowledge their part in these negotiations and only provided take it or leave it offers and not engaged in meaningful conversations. So we'd be happy to be able to get back to the bargaining table as soon as the government trustee bargaining team provides us with confirmation that they have a renewed mandate and they are able to negotiate with teachers. But if that doesn't change, then as we've communicated, we will provide 48 hours notice for any job action that occurs, and we'll be announcing them at that time. Okay, so again, thank you to everyone who has come out today. And again, just a huge thank you to Shelby. I know these things are nerve-wracking on the best of days. And so you coming and sharing your experience with us does truly mean so much to us. And to the media and the teachers who are here today, again, thank you for your time. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you, Samantha.